Hey fellow Sim historians, welcome back to my Victorian Sims challenge. As you can see, we are starting off bright and early today with another round of the flu, although in my town we're calling it tuberculosis because an epidemic of tuberculosis is remarkably historically accurate for the 19th century in England. So we are back with the King family. As you can see, we are just throwing out grandma's comfort soup every 2 minutes. And this is the episode and the rotation where I just absolutely lose my mind when it comes to the flu. So unfortunately, like, everyone is sick. We have Cornelius here who is very sick and has been sick for quite a long time. It might actually be turning into pneumonia. So Daisy is called upon to go meet and fetch the new doctor in town. That's right, we have a new sim in New Whitby. Meanwhile, the house is so chaotic and kids have been sick and haven't been able to go to school, so there is homework everywhere. I'm not even exaggerating. The amount of homework on the floor in this house is just awful. So Daisy walks by and sees a man in his yard. This is Septimus Oliver, and he is our new doctor, recently moved from London, and Daisy's kind of shocked because he tells her to go inside and he'll fetch some tea, but his house is so beautiful and she was kind of expecting to be greeted by his wife. But as it turns out, Septimus lives here alone. He is a single man, very, very dedicated to his job, has never been married, but also deeply, deeply loves his garden and yard work and is happy to work on it on his own. He doesn't have a gardener or anything. So Daisy starts to tell Septimus a little bit about what's going on in the neighborhood. No one has yet come to greet him in town, which isn't that surprising. They're a little bit skeptical of physicians coming in. I mean, as they should be, you know. They're nervous. He's new in town. The town has never had a doctor before, so this is a little bit weird to them. If you're on the Discord, you will recognize Septimus. So some of you guys helped me name him, and we had a little bit of a battle of the, oh my god, how beautiful is he? I think he's like the most beautiful sim to ever live. This man was completely randomized from the Pooklet method. I have no idea how the Pooklet gods gifted us with Septimus Oliver, but for those of you who think he's not beautiful, you're wrong. I'm sorry to tell you, but you're just absolutely wrong. Unfortunately, Septimus and Daisy aren't exactly getting along particularly well. So Daisy is pretty much like, my father is ill, my brother is ill, my sister is ill, you have to come to my house right now and deal with this. And Septimus is like, you can't tell me how to run my practice. Like, I need to do some research before I get into anyone's homes. I need to go through the collected records in the neighborhood and figure things out. But because we have a doctor in town, every so often when illness just gets too unmanageable like this, I actually am going to be using this cheated genie's lamp to grant a wish to cure the plague. And so using this interaction will cure every single sim in town at once. So as you can see the little pop-up, we have 11 diseases cured. That's 11 sims who have tuberculosis in the neighborhood. And with a family of only like 25 sims, that's potentially like half the neighborhood if just one person from each household gets sick. So thankfully he does come the next morning and Daisy greets him outside, but she's in her pajamas and kind of like, oh, she doesn't realize she's still in her pajamas until she greets him, and then she's kind of like, okay, this is uncomfortable. I probably should be wearing real clothes. But in true Septimus fashion, he doesn't even notice because he's so busy admiring the garden, because the Kings do have a really beautiful garden. So she fills him in on how her father has been doing. Over the night, her brother and sister are feeling a little bit better, but Cornelius is not doing great still. So he's like, okay, well, I will go check on them. And Daisy and him are still having this very hot and cold conversation. They don't exactly get along naturally. Honestly, if I let them autonomously interact, they might become enemies, and we don't want that just yet. So Septimus comes in, he checks on Cornelius, he gives him a little salve and something to drink, and Cornelius starts to feel a little bit better, so he thanks Septimus for his kindness. They'll be sure to invite him over for dinner to welcome into town, and also apologize for the fact that the town hasn't been particularly welcoming to him, given the fact that New Whitby has in the past been quite nice to new members. But look, even in the 19th century, people were super skeptical about science, and that's nothing new, especially people who come in from out of town. Especially because in the 19th century, like, all of these small towns had started to develop their own little, like, traditional and holistic methods of curing diseases and treating themselves. And when someone new comes in and starts to tell them that they're wrong, these things generally don't go well. And Daisy is so flustered by Septimus's presence that she burns her mutton stew, and she's just, Daisy is having a day, okay? But these two are so glad to be feeling better, and of course Louisa was a little bit nervous for her husband because he wasn't feeling well for like 3 or 4 days. And so they are going to celebrate with a little woohoo in their bedroom and maybe another baby, because they've both been rolling the wants to have another baby, and I kind of want to let them, even though they have a big family. You know, they lost Alexandra, one of the triplets, and they just really love children. And so I think Louisa is just now starting to get out of her postpartum depression. She's feeling a lot better, and she's just feeling ready for another baby. And Daisy, of course, is still at it with her antics, jumping on the couches, doing normal, ridiculous Daisy things. But she's grown up a little bit since our last episode. She's actually doing a lot of the housework around the house, so that her brother Ernest doesn't have to pick up all the slack, because gosh, Ernest is great, but we give him a bit of a break and let Daisy kind of take over some of the tasks, especially while the rest of her family recovers from tuberculosis and the flu and stuff. And here's little Marisol and Charles. We haven't seen them a whole lot yet in today's episode, but Marisol and Charles are doing quite well. One of them was sick, I can't remember who, but they're both cured now thanks to Septimus, or, you know, that genie's wish, but we're gonna say it's all Septimus is doing. He does seem like a guy who would have a bit of an ego, you know? And so the kids are doing really good. They're both not doing great at school. As I said, we have homework strewn everywhere. Charles is doing okay, but Marisol's failing. No. I don't want... We just cured the flu, and now we have a burglar. Oh, he's gonna steal the carriage. He stole the carriage. Great. And he's gonna get away. He's already outside, so he's gonna get away. Yep. No one can catch him. Why do we even bother calling the police now? Thankfully, the Kings have quite a bit of money at this point, so they're not particularly torn up about losing their carriage. Cornelius is the mayor now. This is his second rotation at the mayor, and things are going really well, and so they can afford a new carriage. As you see, they get a new one. And luckily, we have a new gentleman in town. This is Maurice O'Neilly. He is absolutely adorable. And our dear friend Lady Simmer actually gifted us Maurice. He moved here recently from Alfreda Isle, and he opened up a little bookshop that he's very excited about. It acts as both a bookshop and a library. So this middle section and the upper floors both have areas just to read, study, and relax in. And this is a really great new community lot that we have in our neighborhood. So we send Ernest to go do a little bit of studying. He's been feeling a little bit cramped at home recently, and I just kind of want to get Ernest out and about. But look who should show up but Cecil Harvey and his sister Annalise. And so we know that Ernest and Annalise are kind of in this arranged betrothal situation. Nothing is final yet, of course, but their parents have been talking about it, and Ernest and Annalise have been trying to get to know each other better a little more, just in case it goes through, and right now it's kind of looking like it will. However, these two are not getting along. I was really anticipating that they would get along because Annalise is very sweet-tempered and Ernest is just like a total sweetheart. I love Ernest so much, and I know that a lot of you also really love Ernest because he's just like an absolute gentle baby and just so nice and helps out around the house. So I figure, like, while they're both here, we should just let them kind of hang out, get to know each other a little more, because primarily they know each other through their parents and those kind of stiff interactions. And so it's about time that Ernest and Annalise begin to get to know each other one-on-one. So I send them upstairs to one of the lounge areas. There are a few desks in here. It's not exactly a romantic situation, but I just really wanted them to get to know each other. And so they're having a good chat. Thankfully, they're actually starting to get along a little bit better. I'm sure that is, probably because their relationship meters are going up a little bit. And I really love to see that because I just really want Ernest to be happy. So I let him ask her if she would like to be courted by him. And she says no. I planned out this beautiful little scene where I would film them from across the balcony and he would ask her to be his girlfriend and she would say yes, and then she said no. The Sims 2 is not nice to me sometimes, so that does not go as planned. But thankfully the love and romance is still very alive back at the King household with these two. Cornelius and Louisa are as in love as ever, and Louisa's starting to recover a little bit from a lot of her anxiety about Cornelius being in a more public role, because Louisa, she grew up on a farm. She's a Sully, and the Sullys didn't have a lot of money, and so this is very new for her. Daisy, this episode, is feeling a little bit restless. She's a little bit frustrated with the situation of being the mayor's daughter. She much preferred her childhood where she could just kind of run and play and do whatever she wanted and not worry about people watching her. And so she had to kind of take up an instrument to pass the time. She decided on the harp. It's a little bit harder than the piano. Actually, the harp is a lot harder than the piano. I play both, and the harp is brutal. I think it's probably the most challenging instrument out there, if we're being honest. But that's another story for another time, okay? And so Daisy tries to pass the time by playing the harp, and the kiddos, Marisol and Charles, have some kids over. This is Maurice's niece, Rosabelle O'Neilly. She also moved with Maurice's sister-in-law, who's recently widowed. Della, you may remember Della from her little vignette with Bertram. She's working for Bertram at the moment, helping out with the household, and her daughter, Rosabelle, looks just like her, and I think she's absolutely adorable. So the kids end up playing some tag together. That's also Loretta Sully, so she's distantly related to Louisa Sully as well, the little girl with the dark hair, and so it's just really fun to see the kids starting to have friends. Marisol and Rosabelle are honestly thick as thieves, and it's so nice to see these little child friendships develop, and I hope that they can remain friends even in their adulthood and teenagehood. So it's actually time for Marisol and Charles to age up into teenagers. I can't believe this moment has already come. I feel like they were just born, and I'm just getting so sentimental at the town growing up and all of our Gen 3s becoming teenagers, and some are even becoming adults soon. Can you believe it? Because I cannot. So of course, keeping up with her daily tasks, Daisy is helping out with the cooking. She doesn't ruin this salad quite as much as she did the mutton stew. And Septimus comes straight into the kitchen and becomes a little antisocial, drinking some water. And Daisy's like, "What are you doing? You're not supposed to be in the kitchen. You don't live here." Like, what? And she's so frustrated by Septimus's presence that she just is so angry and just can't. But she has to put on a pretty face and entertain their guests because they invited Septimus here. They promised that they would, and she's just like, fine, it's fine. I will be nice to him. What is happening? Oh my god. Maxine, why are you and your brother fighting? I don't know why they're fighting. They're siblings. Not really sure what that's about. And oh, Maxine is crying. I'm so sorry, friend. And so Daisy is like, okay, look, you can't just hang out in this corner in the kitchen. You have to go out in the party. We invited you here as a guest. This is like inappropriate. And he just kind of laughs, and they actually end up having a really good conversation. And he's like, well, okay, if I can't be in the kitchen, then why are you in the kitchen? And she's like, okay, I mean, I guess you have a point, but I live here, okay? Like, come on. And so they kind of end up giving each other a little bit of a hard time, but ultimately enjoy their presence. And then look at Septimus go outside and water their poor dying plants for them. I love this man. He's great. And that's also when Louisa pops into her first trimester of a new pregnancy. So lots of fun things to celebrate right now. We are going to go ahead and age up Charles. I'm so excited for Charles. He's so great. And look at all of these people who are here to celebrate Charles aging up. This family is so well loved, and Cornelius is being a good, benevolent mayor that is honestly doing the family such good in terms of gossip and reputation. So here's Charles. I am so excited to see what he looks like. I think he's gonna look quite a lot like his father and his father's little baby face. So his turn-ons are glasses and brown hair, and he feels a little bit like a pleasure sim to me, so we're gonna go ahead and give him the pleasure sim aspiration, even though it's the worst aspiration that there ever was in fulfilling wants, because I never do. And then Marisol seems like a proper little popularity sim. I imagine that she, grew up a bit in the limelight with her father as a mayor, and she loves it. She absolutely loves it. Look at all this confidence and charisma as soon as she ages up. It's just really nice to see. She's so much different than her sister. Whose man is this? Someone come collect Septimus. He thinks he can smustle. He can't. He can't smustle. Oh my god. I love him. Oh, he's hilarious. Here's little Charles. He has such a baby face, just like his father. It's so cute to see. We gave him this little brown sport coat and such, and it's also really, really nice to see that Annalise and Daisy have developed really good friendship, despite the fact that Daisy and Ernest are struggling, or Annalise and Ernest are struggling. I really didn't anticipate these two being friends, but they actually get along quite well. So it's time for everyone to head out finally. The party's over, and Cornelius we find sobbing in the doorways. I think he's just feeling a little sentimental at the fact that all of his kids are growing up, and soon he'll have a new baby, and just all of these emotions. Guys, look at Charles. I'm sorry, I know I should, I generally will put the turntables and the Victrolas on the lots just for parties, and then I delete them, but it's so tempting to keep them because the way these Sims dance is just so funny. And so we do have Louisa here, who is so tired from the party, I kind of accidentally forget to take care of her needs a little bit. And she just passes out on the couch downstairs, like she's not gonna make it upstairs to the bed, and that's okay. We'll let her do it. She seems comfortable. She seems happy. It is what it is. A side note, I really, really love Marisol's hair. This is a new hair that I actually downloaded just a few days ago, and I just think it fits her really well. It's really different from her sister Daisy's, and they kind of have the same face, so I wanted to make sure they looked a little bit different. So I gave them very different makeup and very different hair. I still think they kind of look identical, but there's not really anything I can do about that unless I totally change their genetics in SimPE, which I'm not gonna do. But at the very least, Charles has such a baby face and doesn't look like any of his siblings, and so that's pretty good. Even though the other three blonde kiddos look more like triplets than Charles and Marisol look like twins, but that's okay. So everyone's enjoying breakfast together before school, and like the family is really happy. Daisy and Ernest are really good friends as well, and like I swear, even last generation when we were at the King household, the family is just so wholesome and they get along so well. It's really not surprising, to be honest, that their father wound up as mayor, because the Kings just have a really great reputation for being sensible and kind and just like really hardworking. So we actually see these two doing a little bit of reading, and ignore Ernest's outfit. This is his exercise wear. So here's the thing. Louisa wakes up feeling these tremendous cramps around her uterus. She's in a lot of pain. She doesn't know what's going on. This doesn't feel like when she gave birth to her last few kids. So she has Daisy call the doctor to come and see how she's doing, just to check in, make sure everything's okay. Louisa just feels like something is going wrong, but she doesn't know what it is. So Daisy quickly greets Septimus, and of course they have their quick little formalities, and then she's like, listen, my mother is ill, you need to take care of her. So Septimus comes in, he sets Louisa up on a chair and sort of listens and uses some haptic knowledge to feel what's going on with her stomach. And I thought this was so funny because she was having the little hearts around Septimus's head while he was checking out her pregnancy. And like, I get it, Louisa. He's a hot doctor. We all get it. We're all there with you. And he needs a little bit of help, and so Daisy helps out. Her mother's in a lot of pain. Something's just obviously not right, so they're really glad that Septimus is here to help with the delivery, even though this is the first time in New Whitby that they have a man delivering a baby. Generally this was done by midwives, but we don't actually have any midwives in town yet. So Daisy absolutely has never felt the way she feels while she's helping out with this delivery. She understands that this is possibly a serious situation, but she's having such an adrenaline rush and so much fun. Meanwhile, her father Cornelius is on the other side of the room praying because he's so worried not only about the baby, but he's worried for his wife. And the kids are also downstairs really stressed out and really concerned, and they're also like too afraid to be in the room to help. So Marisol's a little too squeamish and she can't help out, so it's a good thing that Daisy is there. So after delivering the baby, Septimus places the body on the bed. Unfortunately, it was a stillbirth and there was nothing that he could do for their little boy. And so Daisy is holding her mom up beneath her arms, trying to make sure she's okay, but Louisa is beside herself. After just losing their daughter, Alexandra, to lose another baby so soon after her postpartum depression is absolutely horrible for her, and Daisy doesn't even know what to do for her. Septimus goes over to tell Cornelius, and Cornelius just kind of crumples into himself with grief, and he's really concerned for his wife, but Septimus assures him that Louisa is okay. Downstairs, Septimus reaches out a hand to Daisy as she walks by and tells her, Daisy, you did such an excellent job. You held your composure really well. I've worked with a lot of midwives and medical assistants, and none of them quite held their composure in such an intuitive way that you did. I'm really, really grateful for your presence during this birth. How do you feel after doing that? That was your first medical encounter. Are you excited? And Daisy just has this big smile on her face, despite the fact that she just lost a little brother, and says, that was one of the most amazing things I've ever experienced. Birth is beautiful, even when death occurs and tragedies occur during birth. There's just so much life and energy and spirit. And he grabs her hand and says, Daisy, I think you should become a midwife. I don't have anyone to assist me in births since I moved here, and I think you are the perfect person to do this job. Daisy's obviously, like, absolutely shocked and says, oh, I don't think I could be a midwife. Like, I'm supposed to, like, practice my harp skills and my painting and piano, and I don't think my parents would be for this. And he says, Look, I know what I saw up there in that room, and you're a natural. I think that New Whitby needs you. And Daisy gets a little bit lost in his beautiful green-blue eyes and just kind of ends up losing her composure for a minute and just staring into his eyes. But she realizes quickly that, like, okay, I'm holding a man's hand, and just kind of like pulls her hand back, and he's like, she doesn't even know what to say at this point, and she gets a little bit startled and ends up running into the kitchen to get away from him without saying anything, because that was an incredibly improper interaction that should not have happened. And so Septimus actually ends up following her into the kitchen. He puts one hand in his pocket and the other hand gently on her back and says, promise me you'll at least think about it. I could really use your help. And Daisy is so shocked by the intimate gesture that all she can do is say, okay, I'll think about it. I promise. But she's feeling really skeptical. She's kind of doubting herself a little bit. Like, I really don't think I could do this. But there's a part inside of her that is absolutely thrilled, and her heart is beating at the prospect. And after he leaves, she goes into the bathroom and just looks at herself in the mirror and whispers, could I really be a midwife? Am I cut out for this? All right, so that's where we're going to end off today. Thank you so much for joining me on today's episode. I know a lot happened, and we've got even more happening next episode with the Jungs. I was gonna put some more stuff in, but this episode already got a little too long. So don't forget to like and subscribe. I really look forward to seeing all of you next time. Bye.